right, everybody. I think we're already connecting live. I think we're live on Facebook on this new edition of Human Conversations. I am Jessica Lockhart. I am the director of the International Institute of Humanology, and I am really thrilled to be here with you one more month to discuss a human topic. We are missing our chairperson. James S.O.U.L should have been here chairing the meeting today, but well, you know that the internet is playing tricks with people these days, so he might still be trying to connect. He will join us, I hope, and eventually. And if he does join us, I'll just give him the floor and I will just become one of the participants as was originally planned. As you know, we usually hold these human conversations once a month. The human conversations were born almost a year ago to open a space to discuss topics that people don't usually speak about that openly or that people might need to hear about. We address different issues that are complicated, that are difficult, or that are necessary. And today couldn't be an exception. From the International Institute of Humanology, we decided that it was really important to address something that a lot of people are going through these days, and that is running away. Either having to run away or either choosing to run away. But because of different circumstances, a lot of people are running away, and people are having a lot of trouble and having a lot of difficulties leading normal, regular lives today. COVID made things even more difficult, as you know, coronavirus. And we thought it was really important to discuss this. That's why we invited three fantastic experts to join us today. You can see them on the screen, and they're going to be participating in our edition of Human Conversations today. I will very, very briefly introduce them. This was supposed to have been done by the chairperson, who doesn't seem to be able to connect today, so I will have to do it myself. Let me just get their summaries here. So the first person you can see, I think she's on my left on the screen, is, I hope I pronounce, oh no, she's on my right on the screen. I'm checking it right now. She, and I hope I pronounce the name properly, is Saadet Ozdemir. She is an entrepreneur, educator. She is especially an activist who's defending people all over the place, especially refugees, women, minorities in general. She has a lot of experience in mediation, negotiation, and advocacy. She's currently in Australia, and I have to especially thank her for being here because I think it's about 2:00 a.m. And she, in spite of what she's here with us today. Thank you so very much for joining us in spite of the time. Saadet, thank you for being here. Okay, yes.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, I see that also James S.O.U.L connected. He managed to get online. So James, I'll pass the floor to you and you can continue. We just introduced Saadet. We didn't introduce Viola or Dr. Paul, so go ahead. No, the mic is off, it's muted.
Sorry about that. Technical difficulties, that tends to happen. Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending. Thank you for participating in this roundtable discussion. I'm sorry that I've had a little bit of issues, but let's carry on. So our next panelist is ViolaEdward. Viola is an advisor, a mentor, a psychotherapist, and does breathwork training, and is connecting all the way from Cyprus with us today. Hi, Viola. Thank you so much for participating in this roundtable discussion with us today. Then, least but not least, we also have Dr. Paul Hoekmeyer. Please correct me if I mispronounced your last name. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's also a consultant and an author. And he's connecting with us all the way from the United States. Thank you, Dr. Paul, for being here with us today. It's such a pleasure. And finally, we have Jessica J. Lockhart, the founder and creator of Humanology and the International Institute of Humanology. She is also an international speaker. She's an author, a teacher, translator, and so much more. And she's connecting today with us from Panama. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having us. Well, for being here.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think everybody already heard me. So just go ahead and you take the floor, James.
No worries. So the topic of today it's a very important topic that has to be spoken about. Today's topic is running away. And what does running away mean? So let's find out. We have three questions. Oh, sorry, we have two questions for our panelists. And afterwards, we will be opening the floor for the questions from the public. So I do urge you, whoever's listening to us, to please, in the comment section below, write down your questions, and we will get to them at the end of the show. So please, any questions, we're ready to answer them. Right. Now let's start with the actual official questions. So the first question that we have is, a lot of people run away for many different things, themselves included, but in spite of which, some people believe that only cowards run away. What would you tell them? Viola, if you could be so kind as to answer the question.
Well, there is different way of running away. I was joking before that I was an expert to run away from relationship in my youth. It's quite far until 40. I could manage to stay more than 6 weeks in a relationship. So I become really expert. I become really expert of choosing the person who would run away and me running away of the person. I always remember that when I used to always pick people who would not live in the same country, but one of them moved to my country, so I move country, or I move, so there is that like pattern that we cannot stay, but there should not be confused by when we are mature and we by now at my age and my stage and all the years of therapy that I have done, that sometime I enter into a relationship, I'm great connector and I do attach quite quickly. And because of the experience of my life, so I enter to the relationship nowadays with my eyes open, being an associate or worker. So, and plus the experience, so I managed to detect many times all the sign and the red sign. So I'm somebody who knows nowadays how to set boundaries, how to give 1, 2, 3 chance, and then change or get away from that situation. And I have found that in my life, many people tell me you're running away. And being me so much expert of running away, I understand personally, and I would love to talk more about it, the difference between setting boundaries and saying no, not me, not no, and move and turn to run away. So I think that will be one part of what I would like to share with you, because it's about differentiation. What is it, the differentiation between one and another? And I think many people, especially in relationships, when they are moving to go, they are so accused of being running away that they doubt about themselves and stay longer to move later with much more loss and much more pain. So I think it's very, very interesting, that differentiation between setting boundaries and moving, or running away as a pattern, as a pathology.
Thank you, Viola. Wow, I actually hadn't thought about that, the difference between running away and setting boundaries. I think you're giving us a lot of food for thought, so thank you for that answer. Dr. Paul, same question, please.
Well, I always love to go after my good friend and colleague Viola. She teed it up for me quite nicely. So, yeah. So my work as a therapist involves integrating two dualities, and so when we look at running away, we have reaction and we have intentionality. And so typically, when we run away reactively, it's because of protecting ourselves from a threat. We know that our bodies are set up for fight, flight, and freeze. And when we flee, right, we're running away from a feeling that we are unsafe and we are being threatened in a world. And look, we live in a world that's profoundly threatening right now. The ethos that we are existing in is very threatening on every single part of our existence, from our health, from our economics, from our political systems. So we are living in a profoundly terrifying, threatening world right now. And so we need to look at the instance of running away, and then we need to look at, like Viola said, the pattern of running away. And if we observe a pattern of behavior, and does that pattern of behavior lead to healing and repair? Or does that add to our pathology? And that's where the analysis has to come in. And that's why it's important to really be able to observe our behaviors, right? Observe what we're doing, and then observe our behaviors in a pattern. So, we always, as our brains work reductively, and we want to put things into box. So it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? And so we need to think more expansively and intentionally and figure out, look at this pattern of behavior. And the question, the analysis is, does it deepen pathology or does it lead to repair and healing?
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you for that answer. Yes, so does all of these behaviors, do they help us or do they limit us? That's actually a very good question as well. And if the public doesn't ask it, I will definitely ask it at the end. So let's bear that one in mind. Sadat, please, the same question.
I come from a family. I started running away with my family at the age of 9 because of their political beliefs and running away from prosecution for safety. And I spent the last 10 years with a lot of people who ran away, and particularly the refugees. So in one sense, if we look at the question, is running away, sort of being a coward? I think it's a very brave thing to run away, that, sort of it takes the strength and, sort of to pick up your family and just flee, because it's not that you're running away from issues and you don't want to be there to face or, continue to protect the social fabrics of the society. But in fact, you're running away so that you can be safe in another new environment to continue your beliefs and your knowledge and to protect your family. So when I look at the question of running away, we tend to run away from lots of different things. And sometimes we run away in our thoughts. I run away from my thoughts so many times because if I put into practice some of my thoughts, there could be a lot of damage to some of the policies and strategies that's been implemented that causes the effect of running away. Sort of the wars, hunger, homelessness, COVID, strategies and policies in place that, sort of disenfranchises the community and puts a split between and racism. Sort of I'm going to stick to the question and say, I don't believe that it's cowards only run away. I believe that, sort of strong and very brave heroes run away.
I love that last sentence. Only brave heroes run away. Wow. That has a lot to say, I think. Jessica, please, the same question.
Thank you, James, and thank you, Sadet, because I also was going to talk about beliefs. Are those who run away cowards? Well, I think it depends on what you believe. As a child, you might be told by your adults, only cowards run away from danger. And you might grow up believing what you've been told because you have no alternative way of thinking, because everybody in your environment repeats the same thing, or because you're never given the chance to think otherwise. And as you grow up, you might strengthen that belief and start seeing everybody who runs away as a coward. Your own limiting belief will not allow you to see the bravery behind running away that Sadet was talking about right now. On the other hand, if you grow up like Sadet did, and grow up believing that running away is real bravery, you will consider that running away requires courage. We live in a world in which refugees and wars and hunger and many other things force a lot of people to run away. Millions of people are running away. And the problem when those people run away into other countries, for example, is that many of the locals have those inner beliefs that running away is a proof of being not really very brave or being a coward. So I would like to challenge our audience, our listeners today, to question their beliefs. What do you believe about running away? Did you grow up believing that running away is only what cowards do? Or did you grow up believing that running away is a sign of bravery? You might be somewhere in between, but I would like to challenge you all, because there's millions who are having to run away and we're judging them. And our reaction to them is based on our limiting beliefs. If, on the other hand, we believe that running away is a sign of bravery and that only brave people run away, we might be judging those who run away as superheroes when they might not be. So I would like everyone to consider this dichotomy when thinking about those who run away. I agree with Viola and I agree with Paul when they say that running away is not just a mere physical aspect of it. There's a lot of running away that happens in many different scenarios. And I would like you to consider your beliefs regarding the concept of running away also in those scenarios. I would have to disagree a little bit with you, Paul, on the aspect of deepening the pathology. I don't think it necessarily should be considered a pathology. I think that sometimes it's just, as I explained, a matter of entrenched beliefs. And in my humanology work, we usually say that beliefs are the reason why we act the way we do. They are the motive, the reason behind our actions. So I would like to encourage everybody to consider this little idea I shared with you today when you think about people running away or yourself running away. Do you consider yourself a coward? If you do, why? What is your belief behind it? Do you consider yourself very strong because you ran away? Is it true? Question yourself before you decide, nothing else. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Jessica. What a wonderful exercise. I think that gives us, yet again, a lot of food for thought. I think it's going to make a lot of people redesign some beliefs, because you can learn a lot about yourself through that. If the public's going to do this exercise and would like to actually send what they discover about themselves to the Institute, please feel free to do so. We're more than happy to hear from you as well. So I will be doing this exercise at the end of this roundtable discussion myself. So let us know.
Can I just say, add something? I feel compelled, since my name was mentioned. I feel like I need to have a bit of a clarification response. This is like a little debate system here. You know, I actually think pathology, when I talk about pathology, I view pathology as a gift. You know, I believe Rumi said something, one of the most gorgeous phrases was that something about the light comes through our cracks. And so if we don't acknowledge our pathologies, we'll never be able to find the light. So that is the first step. It's recognizing our pathology and then building strength around them. And I truly believe that human beings are self-healing and self-actualizing, and we are pulled towards the light. And absent an acknowledgement of our pathology and our challenges, we just won't grow. We just won't grow to the light. So as a psychotherapist, I guess maybe I'm always focused on the pathology, and you, Jessica, as a humanist, are focused on the light. And so my first level of analysis is, where's the pathology, and then how can we heal from that?
Yes, and I would like also to add something to this as a psychotherapist, because, you know, if a child was abused and run away at the age of 3, and if at the age of 5 or 6 or 7 find themselves running away from certain type of person, their belief system still not, maybe they even don't know what happened to them. So it's not only about the belief system. The body keep their score, and we have a somatic memory. And it's very important to include that in our discussion, because a belief system is, since the 90s working about it, definitely, it's very, very important to get into it and understand it and transform it. But there is certain memories that is not just the belief system, is in our body, is how we say, you know, there is certain type of person or situation or city that we just can't stand, and it's because our body won't keep that score, and we need to go into to understand where's that wound coming from and why we're running away. Thank you.
Can I answer both very quickly, James?
Go for it. At the end of the day, this is a roundtable discussion. This is exactly what we want. So please debate.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, for the clarification. Most people have the belief that a pathology is something negative. When you explain it, I fully agree with you, but I wanted it explained so people wouldn't have misunderstandings. And Viola, I also believe there's subconscious beliefs, and subconscious beliefs stem from memories we might not be able to recall, but they're there. So I agree with you, but I explain it in a different way. We're basically saying the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everyone, for this lively conversation. I'm definitely enjoying it. Oh, but we do have other 2 questions to go, so let's carry on. The next question that we have for our wonderful panelists is, given the experience, what should one truly consider before deciding to run away? Dr. Paul, please, if you were so kind to answer the question.
Yeah, I think you need to have a clear plan. I think, again, it's all about being intentional in your actions. And so creating a plan and recognizing what you're running away from and what you want the outcome to be, and then figuring out the steps along that path to get there. I also think it's important to distinguish here. I think we're talking on a number of different levels, and I approach my work on 3 different levels of the human existence. So I approach my work from the intrapersonal, which is internal. So trauma experiences, relational, like what's the relationship that we have with our significant others, and then social cultural. So what's the ethos that we're living in? And I think a lot of this conversation and the richness of this conversation has to deal with, we're not really talking about running away, actually, are we? We're talking about leadership. We're talking about people who are leaving to lead, right? They recognize that the framework, the cultural framework within which they exist is not serving their individual well-being, their relational well-being, or the well-being of their family. So they take extraordinary risks to lead. That's activism. That's leadership, right? And so we can take that same analysis to our personal experience. And so say that if we have, and Viola said that our body internalizes trauma, and so that we then need to take an active leadership. We need to lead ourselves into a reparative healing experience. And so that's where I think that, you know, we need to make sure that we're talking on the 3 different, really the 2 different levels of our existence, I think is relevant to this conversation. The intrapersonal, our own personal experience, and then the cultural experience. And again, seeing as running away has an aspect of activism and has a huge aspect of leadership as well.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you for that answer. I actually think there's something in the Institute that has to do with that, which is the personal spheres and our worldviews and everything. So I love how I can find the little connections between these things. Please do give me your contact details afterwards so that we can stay in touch. Please, Sadat, if you would be so kind to answer the question as well.
I look at it from 2 different perspectives. One of them, if you had the, we run away and we might not get a chance to make a decision and decide and plan for running away because it happens suddenly. And if we take the, wars and a whole lot of other situation or domestic violence, that sometimes you just need to, just go without, planning, because it's an unforeseen circumstances that you need to make a decision there and then to just fight or flight, so to speak. So in some of the things that we might consider if we, were in a position to make a decision to run away from is I agree that we need to have some sort of a plan, you know, sort of what to do, how to get there, you know, look at lots of different diversity of aspects of it, from finances to place, you know, security, safety, and they all come into existence. But in most cases, and especially now, and especially since all these, you know, sort of impromptu wars that started and continues to this day, people didn't have a choice to make that decision. They just flee with what they had, and, you know, sort of and it's not necessarily, but had they known before that was going to happen, they might have taken their proper paperwork, or, you know, sort of certain other things, and made contacts and organized their, you know, sort of fleeing. But in majority of the cases, it doesn't happen. It depends on the circumstances. What are we faced with? Who we are, you know, sort of, and how, and what kind, you know, sort of. Sometimes people just run away because they don't want to face certain, you know, sort of responsibilities, or, you know, sort of situations that they found themselves into. So do we, you know, sort of, what do we truly consider is, you know, sort of, I can't put it into one sentence, because it is so diverse and so, you know, sort of interpersonal and extrapersonal circumstances. That's it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the answer. Yes, our circumstances often limit us and pose different obstacles as to how we can advance. So that's a very good point. Thank you. Viola, same question, please.
Yes, I was listening to Saadet, and I was thinking maybe a way to differentiate again is the difference between going away or running away. For example, in my consultancy work, we work about different way of communication, etc. And there is one part of them when we said going away, there's two way of going away. For example, let's imagine in an argument between a couple that started at 6 p.m. and it's 2 a.m. and no agreement. So the wiser will say, hey, let's sleep and talk about it tomorrow on the weekend. Yeah, it's like going away to come back, to come back to a solution. Or imagine a union meeting, you know, that we have so many things to organize, and the day passed, the 8 hours, the 10 hours, and there is discussion, and the one who has integration said, hey, we learned so much today. What about if we stop here and we come back in 1 or 2 days to return and summarize? So this is going away to return. And there is another going away not to return, like it's a divorce, like when I quit a job in a company, like when I leave a country, especially when I ask asylum, etc. It's a going away that maybe was more organized and paper done, etc. So I understand very well what Saadet was talking. Now, personally, I have had all these experiences. I'm going to be 62. And at the age of 4.5, we did our first going away, running away from Iraq to Lebanon with a situation that the Iraqi father died and Lebanese mother need to leave the country. That was going away, apparently, until we were stopped in the airport and said, you Lebanese can go, Iraqi cannot leave the country. So my mom is a Lebanese, and she has 2 daughters who were born in Iraq. So this going away become running away, because she has to be very strategic, very whatever she has to do to smuggle us out and never again go back. Yeah, that was one of, it was organized in a way, but it became in another way. Yes. So we find ourselves disconnected from that family, from that country. And that happened to me again in early 70s, when situation in Lebanon was quite okay, quite not very nice. And my mom had the idea, let's go to Venezuela and try another type of life and see how is it? And we go to Venezuela in 72 and 75, the Lebanese war started, and it lasted 15 years. So this is another kind of going away, little bit we were aware that's going to happen, but we didn't know exactly what's going to happen. I remember we didn't have paper for the school, etc. But we become from migrant to become refugees because we could not go back to a country that was in war. So sometimes I think there is situation like that in life. We try, a woman maybe after a lot of conversation and meeting, she decided to divorce. Oh, man, but let's, and then, okay, maybe the separation come, but later a big fight come and she has to run away or he has to run away. So I think there is a differentiation between how is it that we go away when we run away. Coming back now to being refugee, to being migrant, and how I decided my last migration was my decision. But again, here I am in Cyprus, in an island that is divided. So definitely I have a lot to learn from all these situations. So it leaves in you a lot of marks of what is the precious thing in life and how to make the decision to be able to stay or to go. When Paul was talking about fight or flight, and we know that is fold, fight, flight, and fold, and I had the freeze. For example, I could not fight or flight in my youth, in my childhood. I was so inward child. So what I did is I freeze, is the fourth F. I could not move in a situation of violence, but I learned as a child how to run away in my mind. And then I get saved from very different situation of abuse, and that even though my body could not move, but my mind helped me from my freeze. And I talk about it now, and I can tell you how you feel. You're frozen, you just cannot move. And then, but there is another way how you can run away with your mind. Yeah. And we know about many children who've been abused or in situation of terrible situation, how they disconnect from that. So what is that running away? So there is so many different way that could be a way to help us to reconnect, or some people with less possibility, with less good luck, or with less treatment, or holding them, they could not come back from that running away, mental running away. So our duty, our job as a therapist, as mentor, as coaches, is how to support people to understand the difference by going away, running away, how to reconnect with the self. So I'm totally in agreement. My job is the same. The connection with intrapersonal is the first connection that we have to do, and then interpersonal, and then with the rest of the world. So it's such an amazing subject that we can talk about hours, but I wanted to share with you my own experience about that.
Thank you, Viola. Thank you for sharing those experiences with us. Wow. Honestly, we can't plan for the future. That's for sure. We can only do what we can in this very moment, and that's exactly what you did through those experiences. And wow, you have my utmost respect. That's amazing. It's incredible.
And actually, if I can just kind of jump back in again, I want to sort of piggyback again on something that Sadat said, which, I sort of approached this from a very analytical, logical mind. I said, you have to have a plan and you have to have X, Y, Z in place. And Sadat raised the very important point of saying, well, wait a minute, how about if we're faced with an emergency situation and we don't have time to get cash or prizes or get connection? And that's a very important point. And I was reminded by something, again, that Viktor Frankl, who was a profoundly important existential psychotherapist who wrote about surviving the atrocities of living in a concentration camp, said that human beings can endure any how if there's a why. And so it's being able to articulate that why, like Sadat said, I'm leaving because I want to give my children, in the case of Viola's experience, right? Her mother wanted to give her children a new experience. So you don't need to have it necessarily all teed up and quantifiable. You need to have it in terms of saying, I want to do this because it's going to give my children a better life, or I need to escape this violence that I'm currently living in. So thank you for Sadat and both Viola for bringing a real humanness to all of this.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you for the answer. Jessica, if you could answer the question too, please.
Yeah, well, the question was, what should one truly consider before deciding to run away? And I fully agree with everything that was said before. I must say that. I would say there's a great difference between running away, going away, running away in a planned, organized way, or running away in the spur of the moment because you just have to act. But all decisions, all of them, are based on another dichotomy that I usually explain and that I usually give my clients, which is related to what Dr. Paul just said, what Viktor Frankl mentioned, the why. The way I see it and the way I explain it is that people usually only act because of one of two reasons. There's only two reasons why people act in every field in life. They either are trying to avoid some kind of pain, or they're trying to gain some kind of pleasure. And when we talk about pain and we talk about pleasure, we're talking about the whole range. Sometimes we're trying to gain the pleasure of having a better life, like Viola explained with her mother and Dr. Paul just mentioned. We might act because the pleasure we're trying to obtain is maybe a more peaceful life, maybe another opportunity. Maybe we're running away in our minds, because we do that too, as Viola explained, because we want to get the pleasure of enjoying a better experience than the one we're physically having. And on the other hand, we might be running away because we're trying to avoid the pain of being abused, of not having any chances, of being faced with a reality that is blocking us and doesn't let us grow. There may be any reasons that are related to having that kind of negative impact in our lives. So what I would say is, whenever you decide to act, ask yourselves, what is it that I'm gaining? Or what is it that I'm trying to gain? Or what is it that I'm trying to avoid? Because that will be the answer to your why. That will be the reason why you're acting. And by knowing, you can decide better. We always say in Humanology that the key to human beings is knowing themselves, understanding themselves, and then taking action. A lot of people take action and react and do things without really knowing why. What is the reason behind their actions? It's like those beliefs I mentioned before. So I would invite people again to ask themselves, so what is it that I'm trying to get? Am I trying to obtain some kind of pleasure, or am I trying to avoid some kind of pain? That might give you a little information about yourselves and the reasons why you're trying to run away or you're running away. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for that answer. So, why are we doing the things that we do? Is it through pleasure or is it to avoid pain? Yet another good question for our public to analyze for this evening. They're going to get so much homework out of this roundtable discussion. That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. We have one more question that's created for our panelists before we open the floor to our public questions. So you still have time if you haven't written down your question. Please do, and we will try and answer every single one of them. The last question that we have for our panelists is, a lot of people run away to save their integrity, their lives or the lives of those they love. The world doesn't make it easy for them. But how would you improve their situation? How or what would you recommend that the authorities do? Please, Sadat, if you could answer the question.
I was thinking about this question when Jessica, sort of sent us the questions. But today I attended a rally in the city, or yesterday my time, and the rally was about refugees. So it made me think a little bit differently. Now, Australia doesn't have a good record in this, and so for 8 years they had refugees locked up in this hotel with no no opening windows in the city of Melbourne. And so their only crime was being refugees. Their only crime because they didn't have the right papers that they did. And they were, sort of offshore, sent to offshore, came to Melbourne 2 years ago for medical treatment. And about 2 weeks ago, the Australian government let some of them go because they said that it was financially unviable to keep them there, but still kept 12 of them there. And those people who left were only given temporary visas. So insecurity, unsureness still continues. So in looking at this question and reevaluating, you know, sort of, and thinking about it, and when I deep dived into it, what can the authorities do? There's so many things the authorities can do. You know, sort of, you kept them there for 8 years. If we just take this analogy of today's experience, give them a permanent visa, easy done. If they came there for a medical treatment, give them the medical treatment. Fresh air is a human rights, you know, sort of issue all of a sudden, because they can't open their windows and there hasn't been a fresh air for 2 years in this, you know, sort of high-rise block. No, you know, there is windows that you can see out, and they went and tinted the windows so the they weren't waving and putting up placards to people to say that that's where they are, please help them to get out. So yes, there is so much that we can do, so much the authorities can do, and we can improve lots of different situations. And some of the things that we can do is look at from the human rights perspective and make it easy for people, you know, sort of depending on the circumstances, depending on the need, depending on the human rights issue. So in terms of what can we recommend, do the right thing, and, you know, sort of how do we improve the situation? Look at it from a humanistic point of view. And I'm only using this analogy, only using this information based on the experience I had today, which really unmoved me all day today. You know, sort of, it's just, there's some, you know, I'm still thinking about what is it that we can do now to get those 12 people out of there ASAP. So I'm going to be pushing the authorities to move some of these things in the very near future. Build community around me to organise. I can't do it by myself, I realise that, but we need to give it a go. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Salad. Thank you for that answer. Yes, we oftentimes forget that a refugee is a person, not just a refugee. We put on this mask, this tag of that they're a refugee, and we forget that they feel, they think, they need to feel alive and to have basic needs just like everybody else. You wouldn't want to be stuck in a room with no windows, with no water, with no bathrooms or sanitary conditions, would you? So why cause that onto somebody else? You're absolutely right, Sadit. Thank you for that answer. Please, Viola, if you could be so kind as well.
With tears or without tears?
Yes, I understand.
Imagine for me as Venezuelan, what can I talk about this? Imagine before being Venezuelan, I am in Lebanese. Before that, I'm Iraqi. So, and I live in Cyprus. So, obviously, I have a long lesson to learn. What can I tell you is that it's unfortunately history, or people forget history, and our memory is very short. When we migrate to Venezuela in early 70s, I mean, that country not only was weather, sun and sand, those people were open hand. These people will your neighbor, people who will not know you, because it's a country built from so many other ethnic group, I have never felt discriminated as a woman or as a foreigner in Venezuela. Just, I can tell you that. Such a rich place to be, as we could all work, we could live together, different level, social level. I remember my mother in her Spanish, the little or the big, that she spoke or she learned. Such an amazing time for us to migrate. How lucky we were to migrate to that place. And when I see now what Venezuelans are going through, for those of you who keep statistics, I'm quite bad in number. I think it's over 9 million, and we are trapped in different between frontiers and many refugees. I can't understand it as a person, because I think if one country would deserve really to be welcome with open arms, that will be Venezuela. I mean, we were a combination of Spanish and Portuguese and Chinese and Japanese and Arab and German and Italian, and during the time of dictatorship of Argentina and Chile and Uruguay, we are all these mix of things. I ask myself why Venezuelans should be even asking. They should be just welcomed, they should be sent invitation, but that's not the situation, because we forget history and we forget what happened. And so I think same way how my mother had to smuggle us out and how we had to run from another country. And I think there is millions of people in this same situation. And I think, of course, you will ask me, I know what you will ask me, how many people you will host in your house? Well, as much as I can, but maybe we can do together so many things that we can help or minimize or create more awareness about what is the situation and how we can help from different area. For example, as I freeze, I'm not somebody in my activism. I'm not good to go to demonstration because literally I freeze. I'm not good for that. So what I do is I really support with presence, with journalism, with money, with whatever I can to people who are activists and can go into demonstration because I can't. So I suggest what we can do. Do what your qualities, what your love, what your capacity, being emotional, physical, mental, economical, help you to do, to be able to support people that in this moment of life are crying, are running away, and are looking for their physical and emotional and mental integrity. And also in a way of being thankful. And for me, I start my day and I finish my day with prayer of being thankful for where I am, who I have become, and how much I have advanced in life, and ask and pray for more possibility to be able to serve in the way how I can serve. So it's not comparison with any of you, the way how every day I can serve a little bit more, in the way how I can serve and learn more. So I think it's a huge subject, and together we can make it. It's not a responsibility of one. I don't think we can say the government. I don't think we can say the private industry for that. The number 17 goal of the SDG is so important, and this is the one I specialized in, togetherness to achieve the goal. And I think it's not about only to create laws, because many countries has the laws, but that they don't have the organism and the institutional processes to make sure that those laws are fulfilled. So there is a lot to do, and I'm very happy to be here all together, so we can do a lot together. Thank you.
Thank you, Viola. Thank you for that answer. Yes, as the public can see, there's a lot of things that we can do. We can even do it from the comfort of our own houses. So if you can help, if you want to help others. Because with the world being so dark as it is right now, in the midst of everything that's happening, let's try and share some light. Let's try and be that light between the cracks, as they were saying. Dr. Paul, please, the same question.
Thank you. I was actually hoping I would get to go last because I'm really enjoying the commentary. So I think reductively, and so I always boil things down to a common denominator. And the common denominator here is tribalism. Human beings are tribal by nature, right? So we organize ourselves in common interests against a common foe. Now, when we were living in the jungle and the plain and there was scarcity, we were living in an environment of scarcity, tribalism served its purpose. That's not the case of the world right now. We are living in a profound state of abundance, right? The world has so many resources at its disposal. The issue is these resources are not being allocated equitably, right? And so what's happened is that this tribalism that started out to be healthy has become pathological. And I actually write about this in my book, Fragile Power, that what we've done is that we organize ourselves against common interests and we other people based upon labels. Right now, that label, one of the labels, particularly in America, that we did under the prior administration, thank God we're out from that, was that we pathologized immigrants, that immigrants were the problem. Well, immigrants are what made America great, and what really made profound impact and gave back extraordinary resources to the world. And so we are in this state of pathological tribalism. And what we need to do is, as you said, James, we need to connect to the humanness and set aside these labels, right? Because we have so many labels of other: Muslim, Jew, woman, person of color, the list, gay, lesbian, transgender. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on, how we other people. And what we need to do, the solution, and there is a solution. You know, I get very fatigued by this narrative of things are so dark and things are so black, and can you believe this and can you believe that? Well, yeah, I can believe it. And because there's a pattern of it. And yes, the light is that what we are starting to do, we have a hunger now. We have a hunger for connectivity. We realize, how fragile life is, right? COVID in particular definitely brought into sharp relief the fragility of our health and our well-being. It forced us these forced isolations has caused, I think it was Mother Nature she finally got very cross with us. And she said, no, you need to go to your room and you need to think about what you've done bad for the last, whatever, millennial. And so here we are. And we've been forced to spend an enormous amount of time in self and think about how we want to manifest the world in a different way. I certainly have. I think everyone on this panel has, and I suspect everyone who's listening to this has. Now, mind you, is that 100% of the population? No. I break it into thirds. There's a third of us who basically are going to work really diligently to change. There's another third that says, maybe we need to be doing something different, right? And there's another third that's going to be totally oblivious and just kind of want to keep on going, go back, things back to where they were, and they'll be completely contented in their positions of isolation. So we have 2/3 of the population that we can change. That's pretty significant. And I think that engaging in these conversations and connecting, look, we're from all over the world here, and we're connecting on humanness, on humanity. That's pretty extraordinary, right? That we're able to have this conversation. And by the way, we now are embracing this technology to do it. So there's a huge the technology is critically important in the conversation going on. I blame, look, like everything, there's a duality, there's a light and a dark. I think technology has promoted tribalism, right? Because of the algorithms only feed me what I want to hear. Information that's called egosyntonic, that's consistent with my belief system and consistent with the way that I want to. Every time I like something that says dump Trump, right, I get loaded with feeds about all of that. And so, but we can also use this technology to have these profoundly important conversations and to connect. So, I'm really optimistic. I'm really optimistic about our capacity to heal and grow humanity. So, a lot of things, like America has just announced, GM, for instance, that they're going to do away with fossil fuels, that we're going to have, electric cars. And so I think that there's an enormous amount of hope out there. So unless my name comes up again, I'm going to zip it up and listen to hear what Jessica has to say.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you for that answer. Yes, communication is key. We have to communicate in order to show visibility towards certain topics that, maybe they don't have as much of a light as they should, or things as such. So, of course, communication, establishing this connection, this human connection, as you mentioned, is extremely important in order to advance together as a collective rather than individually as we tend to do. So
that's right. And I'm going to take back my zip. I'm going to unzip for a second here and say that we can't be afraid to go down the rabbit hole. The editor of my book, I was posting my family values because I'm not a gay man who has family values. Imagine that, right? And so my editor said, "Oh no, you don't want to post that because that's going to take you in a place that you don't want to go." Well, why don't I want to go there, right? I mean, why don't I want to like create, as opposed to creating this division, why don't I want to go down that rabbit hole and find out what's there as opposed to living in my silo, right? If I expect other people to cross boundaries and to be uncomfortable with my belief system, then I need to be willing to have the courage and to go deep into those rabbit holes and to confront and to listen, because there's truth. There, it is their truth, and I need to be willing to hold it and listen to it too. So, okay, now I'm really gonna zip it up. All right.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. Yes, oftentimes having a difference in opinions is actually very constructive, because it's how we truly learn. We don't all have to agree with everything. We just have to be able to communicate about it. So you're absolutely right. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Jessica, please, if you could answer the same question.
Thank you, James. Sorry, Paul, I'm the organizer. I get the last chance to speak. No, I usually have the last, or the member of the institute who is in the panel has the last chance, because, well, we always try to give you a little bit of information on what humanology is, because at the end of the day, this is the Institute of Humanology. So, in order to answer this last question, let me remind everybody of the question. It says, well, there's a lot of people who run away because they are in danger, and what would we do to improve the situation, and what would we recommend the authorities to do? I would like to say a few things, if I may. The first thing I'd like to say is that I was born in the USA. I was born in California, but I lived there only as a child and when I went to college. But because I was born in the US, I was always given much more than a child born in certain villages in Africa or in Asia, just because I was born in the US. A lot of people feel really proud of their origins. I am American, I am Spanish, I am Swiss. And I say, and whose merit is that? Yours? Not at all. A child born into a poor family in a deprived region of the world is, just because of that, deprived of many opportunities. Is that fair? No. So why do we keep on piling problems onto that child's fate? Because that child was born there? Whose fault is that? Nobody's. I think we should first consider that we treat people because of their origins in a certain way, and that the way we treat them because of their origins is completely biased and completely unfair. And that should change. And until we are capable of seeing the human being first, and not their circumstances, their physical appearance, their whatever, until we see the human being first, as I was saying, there will be no justice. I also happen to be disabled. And a lot of people look at me and they see my disability, or they see my nationality, or they see my skin color, and they don't see me. And that is what needs to change. We are talking about, and Viola mentioned this, and I fully agree with her. We're talking about what the authorities could do. But why don't we ask what human people, or human beings, each person, people could do first? We see foreigners in the streets, or let me give you a very clear example. We see a man attacking another person, or a woman, it doesn't matter. You know, we see somebody insulting somebody else. Do we really step in? Do we really defend the person who's being attacked? Rarely, right? We just look, or we do nothing. Until we start acting upon things, until we start really taking a stance and defending those who are deprived of capacities, until we start really acting, we can't blame the government. We have to blame ourselves first. I love an ad that I saw on the Spanish TV quite a few years back, or maybe I saw it on Facebook, I don't know. It's the situation of a Muslim woman, and I say Muslim because of the way she's dressed, and I'm using labels here, I know, in a bus. She's being harassed by two men, and they're insulting her, and she's in a corner being attacked by those two men. Suddenly, a woman from the end of the bus stands up, walks towards them, and starts talking to the woman. Mary, hi, I'm sorry, I hadn't seen you, how are you? She sits down by the woman, and immediately the two men back away and leave the woman alone. The ad goes on to explain that the second woman didn't know the first one at all. They'd never met. But by taking that stance, not necessarily confronting the men because she didn't do it, she immediately and effectively defended the victim. Until we learn to do something like this, it's our responsibility too. I would also like to say that Paul mentioned labels. Well, I have this personal campaign against labels, and I have it in my institute as well. We're creating more and more and more and more labels, and the labels are becoming more and more specific. We have labels for everything, and we label ourselves everything. I call myself disabled. That's my label. I call myself white. That's my label. I call myself humanologist. That's my label. There's label upon label upon label upon label. I usually explain that, in my opinion, labels create mental ghettos. By labeling people, we're creating this closed mental places where we put them. And by using labels with such fierceness, we somehow prevent people from expanding and spreading themselves and from being more ambivalent and living in a more open way. I would like for human beings to start using less labels and to start accepting people just as human beings, general concept, in an easier, more open way. Because I think that labels, although some people say they're necessary, because they say, like, for example, okay, until we started talking about homosexuality and we had the label, well, people could not be defended, or people could not defend their rights. And I say, yeah, they serve a purpose, but once the purpose is reached, once the goal is reached, drop the labels, become a human being again. That's what I would like to also encourage people to do, to see beyond the labels, to see the human being, and to start defending one another much more fiercely. I would say many more things. I have a lot of information on this, but I think I'm going to zip it to Paul and let others speak, and I would like to add something later maybe, but not now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you for that answer. You said you're the organizer of the event, so you get final word, but I'm the moderator, so in reality, I'm the one that gets final word. And I would actually like to answer this question myself. My entire life, I've grown up trying to help various communities and working alongside a lot of different nonprofit organizations. So I have quite a bit of first-hand experience in certain things that we can do on our daily lives that can help improve the situation for many. So I just wanted to mention a few because you can start doing them right away. It doesn't take that much effort, and the impact that it has is much greater than you can ever imagine. So, for example, one of the things that you can do is, like I just mentioned, there are nonprofit organizations. There are nonprofit organizations in your cities as well. They can be international or local. You know, many times people think, okay, I'll donate money to an organization, but is it really getting there? Is it really actually helping? Is it doing anything? Well, if you are so weary about something like that, then try helping locally. You don't have to necessarily go to a different country to help. Everybody needs help, regardless of where they're in. So look at your local organizations, check to see who needs help there. Start local and then build on that, for example. Another thing that you can do is there's a lot of legal offices and identities that are trying to help refugees be able to get these papers done, and they lack a lot of funding and they lack a lot of resources because there's just so many cases that there's just not enough resources. So try and find those offices, try and find those identities and send them an email. don't just donate, or if you want to donate, but send them an email. Ask them, what can I do to help? What is it that you need? How can we move forward? Because they might say, oh, actually, we don't need money. We need support in human resources. We might need just a hotline so that people can talk to other people, because maybe that person hasn't spoken with another person in 4 days, has had no human interaction whatsoever. So maybe just being able to be there to talk to somebody, to listen to that person, can also help and benefit them greatly. Another thing that we can do about, for example, we were talking about hunger. There's hunger in many different ways. We have social hunger. We have well, food hunger, obviously. We have a hunger to be accepted, to belong somewhere, to have a life that we, in a way, dream of. So if we can help satisfy certain hungers, let's do it. There's applications such as, for example, Olio, which is a food sharing application that even supermarkets can use. There's so much produce that is wasted, that is sent to landfills because nobody claims it. Let's use those applications so like that food is used to put to good use. Not only are we helping the environment by reducing the waste that we're creating, but we're helping communities that might not have access to those foods, that might not be able to afford certain products that they so desperately need. And by just having a little bit of organization and communication, you can get all of these food products out there and help a lot of communities. For example, look at food banks, look at places like that as well. Ask in your local schools, even schools, public schools are so underfunded that they also need help. And how we get educated is what follows afterwards. So also start from there. For example, the way that children are impacted with what they learn, their belief system is also extremely important. So if, for example, we say, oh, it's the adults that are doing these things, it's because there's this separation, well, then start at the root. Help with local schools, help creating programs that explain this to kids so like that they're educated from a very young age, that we have to help each other, because that's the only way to truly, well, coexist. So I just wanted to give a few little ideas of things that you can do locally, internationally, and if you're interested in getting to know more ways that you can help, please do get in touch with us, because that's what we're here for. That's why we're having this roundtable discussion, because it's important. So please do get in touch with us. So I just wanted to add that myself. This is the end of the section of the official questions for the panelists. Before I move on to the public questions, I wanted to thank the panelists for participating here with us today. It's been a great pleasure having you and getting to hear your different opinions and ways on how we can help the world. So thank you so much for being here and and doing this activity with us. Now, without any further wait, let's move on to the public section of the questions. I see that we have actually quite a few, so let's start. Anybody who wants to answer the questions, just please go ahead. This part is completely open to the panelists. It's more of a conversation. There's no turns or anything like that. So just go for it. The first question we have is, how can we know if we're running away out of fear or out of need? Whoever wants to answer, just go ahead.
Well, I would recommend that people ask themselves what I said before. What am I trying to gain? What am I trying to avoid? Because that question would give them an answer to the reasons why they're running away. So that very simple question might help them decide whether they're actually running away out of fear or because they need to run away. And yes, you sometimes need to run away because there's fear behind it, of course, and they might be related, but are you really running away because you're choosing to run away, or are you running away because you think there's no choice? I think the choice is also very important here. When you choose to run away, then you start moving away in a way that is different from running away when there's no choice. When there's no choice, you're just a victim who has nothing else to do. When you choose to run away or when you choose to move away, you're in power. So I would say, ask yourself first what it is that you're trying to avoid or what you're trying to get, and then analyze whether you're choosing to run away or you're being forced to run away and there's no other choice.
Yeah, and I would add too, I would encourage you to avoid the split, to integrate the split, that the two can coexist, that you can run away from fear and you can run away from me. They can both be the same. And so we tend to, we want to split things and then we get paralyzed in the split. So integrate the split and the two can coexist, that they can be, you know, you're afraid of something and you need to get out, move away from that. So don't go into the split and integrate it.
And also, here are the patterns, yeah. A very old model of communication and relating said is all related to energy. What's the energy of pushing? What's the energy of pulling? What's the energy of both of them? So I remember years ago, as I started this conversation telling you about my own drama to stay in a relationship, and how when it was the time to attach into the relationship, I will go away. So obviously, what is the energy is and what's the style and the behavioral, it was messed up, yeah? But I want to tell you something that occurred to me a lot in my role as a couple counselor, relationship counselor. Sometimes when people are in difficulties and they want to separate and there's so many things we can do, and sometimes we try this, what we call trial separation, yeah? So we try that is 6 weeks to 3 months maximum, but you know, it's like a trial separation. So for some couple, it's really, really important. And something I see very frequently is we make the agreement, we understand what is this trial separation, and just the second morning or the third morning, they are connecting, yeah? I'm doing orange juice, and I just remember how much you like the orange juice. Yeah, me also. I remembered you because we have this cinema, there is that film, and I thought, oh, it would be so nice to go with you. But they had already agreement that they're going to be for a while separated to just open space, because they are so much fantasizing for divorce that this trial separation is very good because they confronted it, before they go to the other stage. And what they do, after the third 4 days, they start going hiding from therapy and go to have the orange juice together, the breakfast together, the cinema together, of course, some sex together. And they find it great. And sometimes they said, why these therapists want to separate us? We're so good, And then you could see again the differentiation between what I was talking before about going away, maybe to come back, and how people or we can confuse the energy of going away to the energy of attaching, or what used to happen with me as pathologic pattern. And the time that I'm entering into a relationship, I will run away. So I think it's very important to know your personality and know the brightness of your personality and the shadow of the personality. And for that, you need work. For that, we exist to support you and to guide you in this process. Choose somebody that really you like, that really change as many therapists as you need. I have a professor that used to say sometimes it takes 3 years to find the therapist that you find you feel good with. So don't settle, don't stay if you don't like him or her, but keep looking until you find somebody that you can really work to be able to dive and to shine into the bright side of your personality and to minimize the impact of the shadow of that personality and be able to differentiate what is what. And I wanted to add these to the questions.
Can you hear me? Sorry about that. It tends to happen. Thank you for the responses to this question. If nobody else wants to answer, let's move on to the next question. The next question we have is, sometimes running away implies losing yourself. I had to run away, but a great part of me was left behind. In this sense, what would the experts recommend?
I will tell you something, my dear. There is no separation without pain. And remember, we get so used to pattern. We get used to look, if a human being, we will not get used to think, a war will not last than one day. And there is war that lasts years and years. We get used to the pain. We get used to be belittled. We get used to be beaten. We get used to live with so little. So our personality again mixed with that. And when finally we run away, we are so used to that part of us, to that part of us, that we will miss it. So one thing I will tell you, there is no separation without pain. Breathe it in, breathe it out. Take your time to be able to do your grieving, to let go that part of you that had a dream, but that dream didn't work out, had a wish but didn't work out, that need a time to settle and to heal. Please be kind, compassionate with yourself for that. And this is another space that sometimes you will need help for that. It's quite hard to do it by the self. Yeah. I will ask Paul to continue.
Oh, your microphone. Paul, microphone.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
Viola, you basically said everything that I was going to say. I mean, the grieving process. It's a grieving process, and allow yourself the time to grieve. And there is no growth without pain. And look at it as like a snake sheds its skin to grow. And acknowledge it and grieve. Allow yourself the opportunity to grieve. Do everything that Viola said to do, which is what I typically do, and I actually get on quite well. So yeah, thanks.
I would also like to add to this, as a person, sort of been through the circumstances and just recently lost someone that I was with for 44 years, is that sense of belonging and sense of security, and that you leave, you run away, you go away, but you leave things behind. Your history, your community, your, sort of dreams. But time is the essence. And I think that time actually heals a whole lot of things. So we need to be easy on ourselves and give that time. And yes, often you fall into that black, deep hole of longing, and trying to leave that particular culture. If you're leaving a country, in the country, your host country, and you're trying to find and compare, but in time you settle in and you have the dreams and and things that reminds you, the sense of smells and different herbs and food, and often when I chose to live in Turkey, I chose a place that was similar to where I came from in Australia, so that I didn't have to miss it, but it gave me some sort of sense of security and belonging. So time will heal all wounds, as they used to say. And yes, in time it might and it might not, but give yourself the time.
And I can thank you, Sadet. There is an exercise I used to do, and I recommend you to do, and I remember that people are not totally bad and countries are not totally bad. It's that part of bad thing that we can't deal with, yeah? So you can do an exercise that you kind of divide the paper into, and you put the positive and the negative, and you start from the beginning. If it's a relationship, when you met, the good thing that you remember, and you said, because of these and these and these, I loved you, and you will always have a special part in my being. But also you list all the other things that damaged you, that hurt you, that break you to pieces, that for that you could not stay anymore. And then you list that and you say, even though I did this and this and this, and I remember this and this, and you have a good place in my heart, for this reason I have to go away, or I have to run away. I choose to run away. So because when we run away, many times we are just focus on what is bad, and when we long and we want to come back, we're just focusing on what is good and what we long for. So you need, this is what part of the therapeutical work, that you can face both sides of your life, both sides, and why you come to this decision, and respect your decision, and do the grieving process for it. Yes.
I would also like to add another perspective to this whole debate, and is the perspective of change. I mean, especially today that the world is changing so fast, we have to learn to handle change better. A lot of people fear change so much, whereas change is a necessary part of life, and we have to start understanding it and accepting it as such. We wouldn't be the civilization we are today without change. We'd still be cavemen and cavewomen without change. Nature is constantly changing. The universe is constantly changing. And in order to change, you have to leave something behind. You can't be the same while changing. It can't be. It doesn't happen like that. So I would first say, accept that you need to change if you want to grow and if you want to develop. After having said that, I would also like to add that, well, I have also lived in many different places. Panama is actually the 8th country I live in. Imagine how many cities I lived in throughout my years. And I learned a lot by moving and changing. Yes, you leave things behind. To the person who wrote the question, you do leave things behind, but there's a risk of idealizing what you leave behind. A lot of people keep that idea of their previous place in an idealized version in their minds and in their hearts. And for example, one of the greatest problems that people have going back home and trying to resettle in their original place is that they expect it to be exactly the same way it was when they first lived there. And it never is. It also changes. People are not the same either. They also change. They also move on. So when people focus on what they left behind, they usually keep it like frozen in a bubble. And that can lead them to idealizing it. When things are not exactly like that anymore, things also change. So remember, when you're looking back into that which you miss, that which you think you left behind, remember that isn't like that anymore. It changed too. And the third thing I wanted to say is, when you move into a new place and you have that feeling that you're leaving things behind and you're so much focused on those things that you left behind, you're actually blocking many of the new positive things that you might find and encounter in the new place. You're so focused on the past that your mind cannot actually be here in the present and enjoy what you're really living here. Yeah, there might be bad things here, but there's always good too. So give yourselves the chance to discover good things too. So all those three aspects I wanted to quickly mention.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your responses. I see that we have time for one more question. So let's carry on. The question is, I hate my life. I have been trying to improve it, trying to find some meaning, trying to see the point of it all. I have fought, I have run away, and yet I'm still in the same situation. What can I do?
I'd like to answer the question, but if I may, I'd rather be last again. No, why? Because we have a psychotherapist here, we have a psychologist here, and I would like to hear their professional opinions before giving.
I think you're running away, Jessica. I think that's exactly what you do. No, I'm not sure we're going to allow that to happen.
Thank you. I was just going to say, you said that you're still in the same situation. Well, as I just explained in the previous question, I have to disagree with you. You never are in the same situation. I think you're so focused in that past that you're not really seeing the present. You might have different difficulties now. You might have different situations. Yes, you might be still carrying the burden of some things in your past, but you're not in the exact same situation. And one of the things we teach at the Institute is what we call absolute forgiveness. We always explain that in order to get rid of past undesired burdens, you really need to let go and forgive. And human beings are usually never taught how to forgive. Well, we're told by our parents, say you're sorry. But we're not really actually taught how to do that, how to let go, how to forgive. We explain that, in our opinion, there's 3 levels of forgiveness. We have what we call intellectual or mental forgiveness. That is when you logically decide to forgive. There's logical reasons that lead me to deciding I'm going to forgive this person. It's logical, it makes sense. Then we have sentimental forgiveness. Well, it doesn't quite make sense, but I love this person so much that I'm just going to let it go. For example, I'm just summarizing things very much for today's very short period of time. But even if we forgive mentally and sentimentally, there's a lot of cases in which the past comes haunting us. It comes back to us over and over again, and we can't really let it go. That's because we haven't truly forgiven. We're still holding on to the grudge or holding on to that story, and we're not really letting it go. As long as you're doing that, you're going to be stuck in the past. You're not going to be living your present. So if a person is in that situation and keeps on finding themselves in the same situation, chances are that they haven't really let go of the past. They haven't really forgiven either others or themselves, and they haven't found that capacity to let go. That's one of the reasons why the person could be in that situation. That's what I wanted to say.
And then if you are somebody like me, that you add some addiction towards that, so you become anesthetized and become dependent of another pain to deal with one pain. So it's this is what we do. So I again will encourage you to ask for help, because I don't know you, that make the question, but I know me. And really, I was one of these onions that they describe, or artichoke, whatever you like the best, that there were so many layers that has to be dealt with. And, you know, when we go into the pain of addiction and we are asleep, anesthetized, and we can't deal with our own resources to deal with our pain and to find solution. So then you need a process of recovery, and then that depends on your addiction and how much time you've been there and what's your history, and you need support for that. So what I can tell you, when I become 30, even though I survive and I learn and I become a manager, and you know, I was quite a bubbly person, I do remember that, wow, life cannot continue like this, because there were a stage that remind me of what you're saying. I have done so many things, but that stage, a feeling of me remained the same. But as Jessica said, I'm not the same. I'm not the 3 years old that her father died, or the 5 that had to run away from first country, or the 13 who had to run away from the second one. No, I was a different one, already 30. But there is a stage there that I need to break through. And that was my gift when I became 30. To go into the depth of psychoanalysis and then psychotherapy after that. And I am who I am because of that, and because of the breath work. For that, I really recommend you all who feel that kind of situation not to continue the work by yourself, because we already did a lot by yourself, and something has to be done different to be able to feel different. So I wish you the best, and hopefully what we're doing today here and what we're telling you can catch you, and you can find the way to feel much better and to get in connection with the precious being that you are.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica and Viola. And you know, I'm a pragmatist. I'm actually an ex-lawyer, and probably more to the point, I'm a Virgo, so I love to tick off boxes. And so I think basically my advice to you was, you're living in the narrative as one of the problem, and we need to move you into a narrative of solution. And the way to do that is you have to do what's called small wins, incremental gains. And so you need to empower yourself to succeed in life. So set up small tasks, 3 tasks every single day that you can successfully do, whether it's walking around the block, whether it is calling up a mate who you haven't talked to in a number of years, but 3 very small, tangible things that you can successfully complete. Do that for 90 days. And so once you begin to do that, you're going to regain a sense of agency and a sense of power over your life. And you're going to begin to shift that narrative. So from a very practical standpoint, I would encourage you, maybe 3 is too much. Maybe in the first month, just do 1 thing. Just walk around the block. Just get out, as my mother used to say, go blow the stink off of you. And so basically, just go outside and do something that you can feel that'll empower you. Don't try to overtake the world. Don't try to solve all your problems. Just do 1 small thing every day for a month, and you'll begin to feel better, and you'll begin to change the narrative.
I think that's all the time we actually have for the questions, for everything. I am so sorry we have run out of time. As you can see, these types of topics are just so fascinating that there's so much to say that we need more time. We need more roundtable discussions. So, but thanks again. Thank you so much to all of the panelists for participating in this edition of Human Conversations. Thank you to all of our public for being here with us and listening. And thank you, Jessica, for organizing it from the International Institute of Humanology. It's always such a great pleasure. I hope to see everyone next week with much more to come.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, sorry, James, that will be next month, not next week.
Oh.
Sorry, everybody.
My bad.
Sadet, I want to hug you from the distance and tell you how it's a pleasure to see you again and be together. And
thank you. And same and ditto, as they say. And Paul, fellow Virgin, or the fellow Virgin, all the way from Australia to America. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. It's been an honor.
It has been an honor. Thank you.
Great.
I would like to thank everybody, but I would like to also mention the topic for next month. So next month, our Human Conversations is going to talk about how can we have a positive impact. How can we have a positive impact? And we invite everyone to join us next month for our Human Conversations. Thank you, Sadet. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Viola. And thank you, James, for chairing this new Human Conversation. Thank you, everyone. Have a great month ahead. Bye.
Bye.